In 2018, the corporate oligarchy's unquenchable thirst for infinitely increasing profitability drove Instagram to create an app which was meant to compete with YouTube in the mobile space. This app was called IGTV, and at the time, I used this app to do 4 seasons of a show wherein I would use different gimmicks, different locations, and sometimes different costumes to recap different comic books that were coming out that week, mostly the stuff that's in my weekly poll. I did this minimally successful show for a few years before ultimately deciding it was time to take a break. My personal life at the time was a mess. I didn't really like making the videos anymore. And on top of that, in 2022, Instagram shut down the app, as I guess ripping off YouTube isn't as profitable as one would hope. They've had better luck since, though, ripping off TikTok. My 3-month break turned into a 3-year hiatus, and I just never stopped thinking about it. Critical analysis of comic book media is still a passion of mine. I just wasn't sure people were interested, and I wasn't really willing to stress myself out if that wasn't the case. I have, though, for the last 3 years, been getting DMs periodically about when I was going to bring the show back. It just never felt right. Until now, I guess. So things will be different, but they'll be better. I hope. So if you're one of the tens of people who supported me this whole time, thank you. I missed you. Hello. If you're new, I'm sorry for all the exposition. Hello. I look forward to hanging out. But for the first time in a long time, I get to say, I'm Lunchbox. You're inside me. So there's a Superman movie out. Now, I don't want to set the precedent that every time a new piece of superhero media drops, that I'll set up the tripod to discuss the latest and greatest cameo cavalcade, lowest common denominator, focus group, tested CGI slop fest, but I have a huge comic book collection, a significant portion of which is dedicated to Superman. I've been Superman for multiple Halloweens over the course of my life. I carried a Superman figure as a child for years and years. My upstairs bathroom as an adult is still Superman themed. I have a Superman tattoo on my elbow. It's a Bizarro tattoo if you want to get technical, but let's not get technical. I'll call it a Superman tattoo because technically Bizarro was from the Superman lore. I'm wearing a Superman earring right now. This shit real for me, man. That's all I'm saying. This shit real for me. Man of Steel apologist. Superman is now and always has been my favorite superhero, except for a few years in my teens when I thought it was Batman. You know, when you're doing surface level reads of Nietzsche and harming yourself so a girl will pay attention to you, or some other universal teenage experience. You know how kids do. Denying my true nature until as of a couple of years ago when I could comfortably admit that I wanted to be, and that it's cool to be a good person who cares about things and can empathize with others. An experience that women seem to have much earlier than men in their late 20s, if ever. But you know what? You get to places how you get to places, all right? We are unapologetically Hope Court and Superman pilled over here, and that makes Superman the perfect kickoff for my return to the internet, as if anybody gives a shit. I wanted to start with the short list of things that I didn't like before I got into the long list of things that I did, but I saw the film again yesterday, and the things that I didn't like are exactly that. They are things that I didn't like, not things that didn't necessarily work. I don't particularly care for Ma Kent's accent. I found it jarring. I thought it was a bit over the top. I thought it was a bit too southern, given that they're supposed to be from Kansas, and Neva Howell is from Georgia. The actor who plays Martha Kent is from Georgia. She's Georgian. She's from Georgia, and I can tell. I know Midwesterners have a bit of a twang when they talk, but they do not have the same drawl that we have down here. I prefer the subtle accent that we got from Pa, which felt radically different in the same scenes. And upon direction from James Gunn, apparently she was told to do this exact super southern sounding accent. I don't think that takes away from the portrayal of the Kents overall, though there is talk about the accent thing making them sound like they're stupid, which is stupid. Rurality does not automatically equate to lower intelligence, emotional or otherwise. Things are just slower in the country, so people talk slower. They're not dumber for it. I like when they're a bit simple, especially in comparison to a background rich with complex Kryptonian history and culture. The farm contrasts the hustle and bustle of Metropolis. The Kents are meant to ground him, right? And going back to Smallville, going back to the farm is meant to serve as a reminder of how uncomplicated things can be, even when you are the most powerful man in the universe. Their advice is nuanced and sound. I found Ultraman underwhelming. He served his purpose in the narrative and was entertaining, but I wish they'd not called him Ultraman if it wasn't going to have anything to do with the Earth 3 character. That's me being a fucking nerd. He could have also been a Bizarro character. Make him gray. Just make him gray. That's more interesting if you make him gray. A straight up clone of Superman is a little bit boring. Luthor clones him from a hair, a single strand of hair, the same way they do in Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, but at least in Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, you got Nuclear Man. Am I defending Superman, The Quest for Peace right now? What am I doing? There's been a lot of talk about whether this film is overstuffed with characters, and while I'm not sure I agree, the thought did cross my mind. There are 4 fully formed superheroes that have screen time, and that's not counting Superman. I know this is meant to kick off a universe, but after 10 years of no Superman movies, you kind of want to spend time in the Superman mythos. I would have liked to spend a little bit more time with the Daily Planet crew, though I do not think they are necessarily lacking. Again, I am nitpicking. It's this good that I have to dig so low to find shit that I didn't like about it. It's wonderfully cast. David Cornsweet is charming and earnest. He's corny without it going over the top. He's not only powerful, but empowering. This feels like what Brendan Fraser's Superman would have been like in the 90s, had we ever got that. He's passionate, he's emotional, he cares so deeply, something that shows up in the comics quite a bit but hasn't always translated super well on screen. There's an idea within our culture that in order to portray someone as strong, that they must also be stoic and reserved, but he too should be allowed to be expressive the way he is in this film. He spends so much of the movie on his back foot, and it's good to see him vulnerable, not just hyper powerful for 2 full hours and then the movie comes to a dead stop when kryptonite is introduced in the last 30 minutes, like the end of Superman Returns. It's interesting, and I think we need that right now. I don't think he comes across as weak or whiny. I think that's a patriarchal feature that you should address with your reflection. Bitch. Rachel Brosnahan's Lois Lane feels so real and so accurate to the comic book Lois's tenacity and commitment to the truth. She's clearly having a hard time being vulnerable with Clark, balancing his hopeful perspective with her own cynicism, which is part of the reason they come into conflict. For me, Lois's job above all within their relationship is to check him. That's what he does for her, and that's what makes them so relatable and so strong. She stands out as her own person instead of more of an extension of him, like I felt Amy Adams was for Henry Cavill, despite them both being such great actors. That's why you cast based on chemistry and not simply talent. Rachel is now probably in the running for favorite Lois Lane, though still a ways behind Terry Hatcher. Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor is perfect. He is that comically evil genius who can pull off making an elaborate real estate-oriented military-industrial scheme involving pocket universes, fake supervillains, corrupted politicians, clones, and extra-dimensional monkey threads users, all about his envy towards Superman. He's calm and collected when he's in control of his control room of sycophantic minions, including Otis Berg and Eve Tessmacher from the 1978 Superman movie, but he's rightfully unhinged when he's about to lose to a man he perceives as less than him, as different, as alien. He comes across as a believable megalomaniac. Bad actors on the internet are saying he's too emotional and comparing him to Clancy Brown's Lex Luthor from the Superman animated TV series, the DC animated stuff, as if that version never lost his cool either. What's up with the internet? Why is everyone mad at everyone all the time? The rest of the cast is just as excellent. Skylar Gisondo as Jimmy Olsen might be the first fan cast I was ever on board with, and doing the All-Star Superman Ladies Man thing for him was a lot of fun. Michaela Hoover, Wendell Pierce, and Beck Bennett, of all people, as Kat Perry and Steve Lombard, respectively, fitting their roles very well. I hope we get to see them again in another installment of Superman, and it's not a Man of Steel situation where we get one good movie, yes, good movie, and then 10 years of glorified cameos in rock spearheaded projects where he's just like a chest. Remember that one time in Shazam where he was a chest? He showed up and he was a chest. It wasn't even him. Anthony Carrigan as Metamorpho. Had no idea that was him. I didn't watch any trailers or BTS stuff. I wanted to have this movie injected raw into my eyeballs with no prior information. But as soon as he showed up on screen, I recognized his voice. I loved him in Barry, and it was great to see him in this as Metamorpho, a S-tier underrated character. Isabella Merced and Nathan Fillion are here. I like this Hawkgirl so far, and while I wasn't excited about Nathan Fillion's casting in the first place because I thought it was lazy, not because I don't think he's a good actor, he did bring it home for me. He's a fun Guy Gardner. I hope he shaves that fucking bowl cut, but it's a good Guy Gardner. Eddie Gathegi. His Mr. Terrific stole the show a little bit, spending the whole film irritated that everyone else is not as smart as him. His sarcasm is just as interesting as his action scenes. I first was introduced to him through the JSA, through the Jeff Johns, the Peter Tomasi stuff in the early 2000s. I am a big Mr. Terrific enjoyer, so I'm living right now. I'm truly eating right now. Maria Gabriela De Faria as the engineer was great. I look forward to seeing how her perspective shifts if she returns in the Authority stuff, which she should. And I know James Gunn just did an interview where he said that stuff has been pushed a little bit because they're not really sure how to deal with it. But I am still excited for the Authority. As a Midnighter fan, I want to see him kiss a boy. Bradley Cooper's Jor-El was not on the bingo card, but I'll take it. People are upset with this take on Jor-El, jumping through hoops, pitching their own retcons and rewrites. And the widespread justification of this seems to be that this has existed in the comics before, which is true. The Kryptonians have been colonial like this in the John Byrne stuff, in Smallville, in some of the stuff after the New 52, but just because something was done in the comics doesn't automatically make it good. The comics are not infallible. Sometimes shit just sucks because it sucks, no matter what medium you've put it in. The real justification here is just, it doesn't matter. Superman isn't good because someone told him to be. He just is. He's archetypal good. It's more interesting if Clark has had to reconcile the beliefs of his biological parents with those of himself and his adopted parents, as he does in this movie. It's more interesting if his commitment to righteousness is completely of his own, as it is in this movie. I have a preferred version of Jor-El, Lara, and Krypton too, but it's not their movie, so it's just not really a concern. I'm sure we'll get more context with this going forward with Millie Alcock's Supergirl, who gets a pretty good jump off here, leading directly into her 2026 movie based off Tom King's Woman of Tomorrow. Excellent book, by the way. I hope it is in the same direction, because that conveys to me artistic integrity, the ability to make a choice and then stick to that choice even if people don't like it. Alan Tudyk is here. Michael Rooker is here. Palm Clementieff is here. The list goes on and on. I'm surprised Krypto's barks were not done by someone famous. Bill Hader. Just an amazing supporting cast all around. They don't feel so much like glorified cameos as they do like organic world building for the first time in a while, I think. Speaking of Krypto, he's amazing in this. No, I don't care about the redesign. He's looked similar in the comics at some point, and it doesn't matter anyway. What matters is his relationship to the narrative and to Superman, both of which are done well. I love to see a character like Krypto featured so prominently. Like a lot of things in this movie, the colorful costumes, the ludicrous plans of Lex Luthor, Krypto, Supergirl, the Trunks, the Hall of Justice, the casual fifth-dimensional imp that Guy Gardner is smacking up with a bat. All the streets being named after Superman writers. This movie is unapologetically itself. Whereas for decades, including the last two with the MCU, it felt like these films were embarrassed to be associated with their own source material. This was a daunting task of making a movie that feels self-contained while also launching a new franchise and new universe, but I think it not only does these things, but also kind of ushers us into a new silver age of comic book movies where we can embrace the absurdity of the medium and explore new genres within it instead of cookie-cutter American exceptionalist propaganda marketed with "this is our espionage one" for the fifth time. This is a fictional world that can experiment and reflect its own version of our real world, which it does well with the conflict between Boravia and Jorhanpur, which, despite being written before October 7th, draws crazy parallels to the genocide happening right now in Gaza, and the relationship between the US and Israel in that. I don't think it's subtle, but it's also not explicit, so like, pick a fucking world conflict. Israel's 60-year occupation of Palestine, Russia's war on Ukraine, the subjugation of Armenia at the hands of Turkey or Azerbaijan. We've seen small steps taken towards that kind of stuff with the Batman with wealth inequality, or Thunderbolts with mental health, the Penguin as a mob ensemble, or Daredevil as a drama, but this feels like the official kickoff to this new era. One where superheroes aren't limited to protecting the status quo, but can potentially make or at least perpetuate the idea of meaningful change. There's no better way to start that than with the original champion of the oppressed, fucking super woke alien immigrant socialist stand-in who can inspire children across the world to raise a flag bearing his symbol, who takes as much care in saving a dog or a squirrel as he does two babies and a crowd of people, who kindly asks that the Justice Gang try and preserve the life of a huge monster, who never closes his heart to people like the Engineer or even Lex, who remembers the food cart guy and after saving the day, still makes him the focus of his Daily Planet article. This is a Superman. More specifically, this is a Superman that inspires a giant robot voiced by Vin Diesel to save a small Midwestern town. It's a little bit All-Star Superman, it's a little bit For All Seasons, it's a little bit Superman Birthright, a personal favorite of mine, it's a little bit Justice League International, it's a little bit Justice League Europe. It's got a lot of good stuff going for it, and I hope that good thing only leads to more good things. The movie is really good. I saw it a couple of times. I bought the commemorative popcorn bucket that is a newspaper stand that has a newspaper of Krypto on the front, and then a flip side where you can make it a newspaper of Superman. I don't normally buy these because I refuse to be milked for $60 or milked in general. It's like I take that back. There are specific qualifying circumstances under which I am willing to be milked, but not in this specific scenario. Isn't this cool? Look at this. Isn't that cool? It's cool. I hope it's true that this is the kickoff not only for a brand new DCU wherein projects are cared for genuinely and not used as vehicles for stardom for some people or attempts at making money off of people's nostalgia. I hope this is the kickoff of a new era of comic book movie where we can embrace the silliness. I hope to see Fantastic Four wearing it on its sleeve in the same way that Superman does. But we'll see. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it. I will see you next time. Get out of me now. You can get out now. You can get out now. Hey, I'm here in my comic book room. It is a mess right now, so I am sorry, but I wanted to pop down here real quick and recommend you a couple of books based on our conversation from earlier. So I'm going to start with Superman Birthright, which I brought up briefly towards the end of the video. This is Mark Waid, acclaimed Superman writer, and Lionel Francis Yu doing a Superman origin story of their own. There's some really interesting stuff in here about how he spends the time between leaving Smallville and going to Metropolis, which I like a lot. But if you're interested in that particular point in the movie where Lex Luthor is trying to frame Clark as an evil alien, that is mostly his plan in this book. It's done really well. It's very interesting. There's a lot of cool holographic projection stuff, a lot of cool designs for Kryptonian stuff from Lionel Francis Yu, so that's nice. I would recommend it. I recommend this to everyone. Anytime they ask me about Superman, I ask if they've read it, and if they have not, I say, Superman Birthright for you. Jeff Loeb and Ed McGuinness, their Superman Batman run. I hold this up to flex on you and show you that it is signed by both of them. This is a great run if you're looking to see his relationship with Batman, him super powerful, and how they interact with the DC universe at large. There's a lot of that because they're, again, on their back foot the whole time, but against a lot of other heroes at the behest of Lex Luthor. So it is not too different from what you just saw. Superman for All Seasons, of course, a classic. I again will hold it up because it is signed by Jeff Loeb. This is another one of those classic Superman stories, one of the ones that everyone recommends to everyone, but it is that good. It is worth recommending if you'd like an idea of what Smallville is like, what his parents are like, what his life as Clark is like, as well as the responsibility, the weight of responsibility that he feels for being Superman. That is all here in this. There is a collected edition of this and the previous thing I just recommended, which are pretty easy to pick up. Superman Action Comics. This is the Philip Kennedy Johnson run. This came out pretty recently. I hold it up again because it's signed. I'm a big nerd. Warworld Rising saw him go to Warworld to do battle with Mongol, but first he has to become like a slave gladiator and free an entire oppressed people. So if you're on the wave of early Schuster and Siegel Superman, this harkens back to that in a really fantastic way, but also does a really great job of being a big space adventure in that way. So I would recommend it. I recommend this to everyone now too also. And finally, I'll recommend to you Superman Space Age. This came out not too long ago. This is Mark Russell and Michael and Laura Allred, who I just recently met. I hold this up because it's cool, not because it's signed, just so you can get a look at it. But it is really good, really interesting. If you're interested in early versions, early 60s-esque versions of Batman and Superman and Green Lantern and The Flash, this is kind of how all that comes together in a really interesting and very retro way. It's just a lot of fun. I just think it's a great run. I think the art is great. I like Michael and Laura Allred a lot. I love their work on Silver Surfer, among other things. So anytime they get their hands on someone I really enjoy, like Superman, I keep this in the rec pile. All right, so that's for you. That's for you. Take a look at that. Take a look at all of these. That's it. Thanks for hanging out. If you're old, thanks for coming back. If you're new, thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to follow me on Instagram, I'm on Instagram and virtually nothing else because the internet is a cancer outside of these two platforms which I occupy. That's it, man. I love you, all right? Have a good day. Have a good rest of your day.